So I'm here to talk to you today about re-envisioning research with mobile first. So before we delve into mobile first and why we should be designing mobile first questionnaires, I'd like to do a little bit of revision about why we think it's essential to include mobile research and mobile respondents in our research projects. So the very first reason is coverage. There's a growing proportion of people who the only way we can contact them is via a mobile device. Now that means if we design research so that these people can't take part in our projects, we're having a really significant impact on the sort of samples that we're collecting and the composition of our samples. And that has a real flow-on effect to the sort of claims we're able to make about our research results and how generalizable they are. So that's a really important methodological reason. But then there are some other reasons that are perhaps equally important. And I think we need to think about respect for our respondents. So if you think about the people who volunteer their time, take part in our research, if people are giving up time, don't we owe it to them to provide them with their most preferred mode of taking part in our research? And another really practical reason is mobile respondents are going to come to us anyway. We know this. So it makes sense for us to not swim against the tide, so to speak, and embrace mobile research because it's here whether people like it or not. So just do a little bit of a refresh on some of the challenges conducting mobile research, with which many of you will be quite familiar with. The minute you start designing research, be it surveys or other types of research experiences, you really come into issues with screen size. Your mobile phone screen is much, much smaller than a laptop or a PC screen. So you've really got to start thinking about that smaller real estate, what's the best way to use it. You've also got different things like different platforms and different operating systems, issues with people using different sorts of devices. You know, is it a smaller mobile phone? Is it a larger form factor mobile phone? Is it a tablet? Lots of different variables going on. And then we know there are some specific things about research experiences that are completed on mobiles. We know that surveys take longer. We know that there are more break-offs. We know that there are more unanswered questions. And then when we get to analysing our results, we need to think about things like mode effects and device effects. There's some of the big picture things, but there's also more reasons at this, but these are the main ones to think about. The other reason we really need to think about mobile is mobile gives us lots of opportunities. We talk about the ubiquitous mobile phone. Most of us have our mobile phones with us pretty much all the time, so it becomes a fantastic device for connecting with people. You know, we've talked about the importance of including mobile to get that improved coverage. But even for people who there are other ways to contact them, they are often more contactable on their mobile phone. If you think about it, you could be contacted for most of the day by your mobile phone, whereas something like your home phone, you may only actually be available to be contacted by it for a small portion of the day. And there's lots of opportunities around mobile for new and more engaging experiences. We've got things like photos and videos, new ways of collecting information. But we've also got things like sensors and passive data. If I want to know where you've been today, your mobile phone's GPS can give me much more accurate information than your memory can give me. And then we've got great opportunities around context-dependent research. So you want to interview somebody about their flight. You might want to actually be able to contact them when they're leaving the airport. That is a much better way to get people's experience while it's fresh in their minds. So that's sort of the start of some of the opportunities. And there'll certainly be more opportunities that we've not even started to tap into yet. So if we have a little look at the journey so far, where mobile phones have traveled through research, we can really see that we've been through three key stages. We've got what we call unintentional mobile, we've traveled through device agnostic research, and now we're moving into this age of embracing mobile first. So unintentional mobile. What do we mean by that? In its initial stages, some people also called it accidental mobile or incidental mobile. And that was really where people were developing and launching online surveys and started to notice that people are completing these surveys on mobile devices. So I think one of the really important takeaways from that is that this was a participant-led revolution, not something that researchers planned. These were normal online surveys, and participants were effectively saying, I would like to complete this via a mobile device. Now, sometimes these were actually probably quite awful experiences because they were surveys that were not designed to be completed on mobile devices, yet people pressed on and completed them. So to me, that's a very important message there, that research participants want to be able to complete surveys on mobile devices. So then we moved into an era that many researchers refer to as device agnostic. And Ray Pointer and Naveen Williams and I wrote about that in our book, the Handbook of Mobile Market Research. And the idea behind device agnostic research was that it was really very much a mixed mode approach. The idea was that we designed research experiences to work across a range of devices and to give comparable results. And importantly in that, participants were given the choice of a device. So we were really saying there are a number of ways that you can complete this survey. Please pick the one that suits you the best. So in many ways, device agnostic research as an approach has led us to where we are now, which raises the question, how mobile ready are a lot of surveys at the moment? Research Now have very kindly given me some figures, and these are global figures that indicate how mobile ready surveys are across the board that are conducted through the Research Now panel. So here we've got some figures for the last 3 years, and you can see the surveys are coded into mobile incompatible, mobile possible, mobile friendly, and mobile optimized. And there's a few messages there, but I think one of the really important ones to take out is there's actually been very little change over the last 3 years in terms of how mobile ready a lot of surveys are. And then if you perhaps focus on the 2016 column, you can see that, kind of alarmingly, 29% of surveys run globally through a panel are not compatible on a mobile device. Another 23% are mobile possible. We're seeing a third that are mobile friendly, and then another 15% that are mobile optimized. So, very much only a small portion of surveys optimized for that mobile delivery, and a large portion are not possible to be completed on a mobile. Now, at the macro level, that's not great news that 30% potentially of people are seeing surveys that they can't complete on a mobile. So that has implications for the industry as a whole. Somebody does one of these surveys, perhaps they will never do a survey again. But at the individual project level, if you're conducting a survey and people can't complete that on a mobile device, start to have a think about what that means for the composition of your sample. It'll start to have a really strong effect on the sample that you're getting. So clearly there are some problems with the device agnostic approach. Some people say my survey is mobile friendly. When I finish programming, I press the mobile button in my survey software package. Now, I'm not being critical of that at all, but when you think about it, designing a survey for a mobile has to start at the beginning. It's not something that you can push a button at the end. If you've designed a long survey with big grids, things that are hard to answer on mobiles, you can't expect a button at the end to solve all those problems. So you really need to be designing a survey as mobile friendly from the beginning, thinking about all those things at the very start, not pressing the button and asking the survey software to perform a minor miracle at the end. And there's also this option of, or this thing I like to think of as, are people just getting through the survey or are they enjoying the experience? We know that some people will press on and against all sorts of obstacles manage to complete your survey. They'll pinch, they'll stretch, they'll scroll, they'll do all sorts of things on big grids, and it's really not a great experience. It's even probably quite hard for them to even keep an eye on, what they're answering on questions at times. So it's not a great experience. It may not be great for your data quality, but you really want people to enjoy the experience, not be something that they're persevering through to get to the very end. And the other thing is perhaps a missed opportunity. If you're not thinking about mobile all the time, you're perhaps not harnessing some of those opportunities. So mobile first, it's a current industry trend. I'm sure you'll see lots of blogs, people on social media talking about mobile first design. People will say, our surveys are mobile first. And that's great until you sit down to think, okay, what exactly is it to design a mobile first survey? You might start looking for some definitions. And there really isn't an accepted standard for what mobile first is in survey design, but it's a term that really comes to us from the web design world. And you'll see in this book written by Luke Wroblewski that mobile first really means that websites and applications should be designed and built for mobiles first, which makes sense. And Luke actually gives us a few principles to think about when they're designing mobile first. And he has three principles that he follows. His first idea is by embracing the constraints of mobile, it forces you to focus and prioritize on features. It provides growth and new opportunities, and it allows you to create innovative experiences by embracing those new capabilities. So what does that mean for survey research? The University of Georgia's Principle of Mobile Market Research course does actually give us a definition for mobile first, and it talks about it being a term that's used to describe operationalizing online and multi-mode surveys. It also notes that there isn't a definitive definition, and the heart of it is to really think about that the characteristics of mobile devices should determine your design decisions. Generally, it means designing a survey so that it functions well on mobile devices as well as being suitable for other modes. And it really requires you to understand how participants interact with and use mobile devices. So if we have a look at surveys through this mobile first lens and we think about these three principles, it really does drive us towards operationalizing mobile first surveys. So if we have a think about embracing the constraints and forcing us to focus on prioritizing features, we start to think about questionnaire length. Which questions should be included? How many questions should we have? How long should our question wording be? Think about instructions. Do we really need those lengthy instructions? Can we make them simpler? Can we perhaps put an image in that's better than the words we write? How long should our answer lists be? Think about images and size. If you've only got a small amount of real estate, you don't want big images on the screen, nor do you want the file size to be very big so that people are having to download intense images through their mobile connection. Sometimes you might think about different sorts of designs. Perhaps it's simpler on a mobile for someone to choose answers rather than having to rank or sort answer lists. And we can also think about smarter designs. Sometimes those longer surveys can be broken into shorter surveys that can be completed over an extended period of time, something that we often call modularization. Thinking about growth and new opportunity, in some ways we need to turn this a little bit on its side compared to web traffic, but if we think about improving our coverage, that allows us to contact more people and to contact people for a larger share of their time. And there are new opportunities around offering contextually relevant research, tapping into in the moment or perhaps using beacons and Wi-Fi's as ways of contacting people. And then we've got lots more options we can bring into our research, opportunities around photos and videos, collecting passive data. And let's think about what innovative experiences we can create when we embrace these new capabilities. We can perhaps look at more engaging experiences for people by tapping into the mobile mindset. And also let's think about research experiences fitting more easily with modern life. The idea of contacting people at home at nighttime on the telephone after they've finished dinner, is a social setting that just doesn't exist anymore. In things like the 1950s, there was limited entertainment. People were sitting around. There was opportunities to do surveys, but now they just don't fit in the same way they do. So we need to think about how can we tap into the modern lifestyle. So just some final thoughts. Pursuing mobile first can give us a chance to reinvent research and survey design. What mobile first is really unlikely to be static, and it's likely to continue evolving as technology and society change. So I think really we need to think about it as a way of thinking and designing research experiences. And in the future, mobile first is likely to be a mode that embraces the features of mobile devices. So I'll leave you with this one last image to think about, and just think about what it means to be mobile last versus mobile first. So thanks very much for listening to me today. I'd love to have your questions.